Hello everyone, Sidewind here. Today I'm going to be continuing my series on the Thief, talking about what the subclass gains at level 2. So to start, I'm going to continue talking about the main feature of the Rogue class, which is quite simply skill bonuses. The Rogue is a skill monkey who can get proficiency in almost anything it wants. The reason is because thieves gain a skill feat at every single level, and they also have a skill increase at every level. The way this works is basically the skill feats are extra little add-ons to your skills. There's a giant list of them. I will not mention specifics here because, as I've stated in other videos, there's nearly 100 something once you count in all the various levels. And for low-level trained proficiency alone, there's something like 30 to 40. Skill increases essentially let you gain one more level onto your skill. It's proficiency levels. And in Pathfinder, there are 4 levels. It's trained, expert, master, legendary. Just checking myself before I say something stupid. Okay. So the reason that's important is it essentially lets you get a bonus on your skills a level earlier, or even more than a level, potentially, than others in other classes. And you can increase even farther at higher levels, such as at level 7, you can go to master proficiency. This increase is sooner than most other classes because you can have more than one skill at expert earlier. So now I'm going to talk just a little bit about what type of strategy you can do when selecting these, because especially for new players, having just this number of things to pick is kind of ridiculous. And the rogue class itself doesn't really have a lot of specific you have this, unlike some other classes. So there's really 2 schools of thought here based off the number of increases. One is Go Generalist. Basically, you just pick what appeals at the time and try to get proficiency in as many skills as possible. And you just pick up skill feats as it looks cool to you. This will result in a viable character. However, I would say that this strategy is usually outdone by the other option, which is specializing in 2 to 4 skills. I give this number so that you can pick up plenty of feats for each of them, and you can get all of them to the highest level of proficiency you can relatively early. So the way that would work, at level 1, you can pick a large number of skills. So you will be trained in these 4 skills at level 1. Then level 2, 3, 4, and 5, you can increase all of those skills to expert. And then 7, 8, 9, 10, you can increase them to master. And you just continue doing that to have them at a high level. And then that skill feat you get every level, you pick it based off one of those skills, depending on which skill you're using the most. And you'll note, there's a bit of leeway in the skill increases, even with this tactic. However, it lets you be very focused on a couple of things, meaning that you will be very good at them, with lots of feats to back that up. So, some skills I'd suggest for this are recall knowledge skills, of course. There are 4 of them, which are Arcana, Nature, Religion, and Occultism, one aligned to each of the 4 schools of magic. And you can also throw in Society there for humanoid enemies. So you have 5. And if you're specializing in just 5, that gives you plenty of feats for each. Other skills which can be good here are Medicine, of course. This can let you be an off healer. Or Athletics, because there's lots of feats there that let you do various things. Acrobatics and Thievery can also fit, and the Charisma skills are also another good bundle. But for the Thief specifically, the Charisma one doesn't make as much sense as potentially some of the other rackets. You can kind of choose which strategy you go with here. It's just based off what makes the most sense to you. Alright, so now this is a chart of all of the different feats available to the Thief Rogue at level 2. You gain 1 of them. So the first one is an uncommon feat, which basically is called Feigns Forbere, most likely a mispronunciation there, which essentially lets you use playing cards as darts or daggers. This is a flavor feat, and it's a Pathfinder Society allowed feat. But it's nothing special. It just lets you use a deck of cards as a weapon. So the next one's Minor Magic. It lets you choose a magical tradition, Divine, Arcane, Occult, or Primal, and you gain 2 cantrips from that spell list. You then become a caster for those cantrips using the Charisma statistic and you are trained in spell attacks and spell DCs for the chosen tradition. So this can let you pick up either a bit of utility, say cantrips like Light, or it can let you pick up a bit of various damage options, such as picking up Vitality Lash to fight undead. Although sometimes, it's really to deal with when you can't deal precision damage, if you're going that route. The next feat option is Mobility. It essentially lets you, when you move less than half of your maximum movement, you don't trigger any reactions. That's the entire effect. So if you have 25 feet of movement, like most characters, this means that you can move about 2 squares without triggering any reactions. 3 is technically pushing it. But if you have 30 feet of movement, as some elves do, it's up to 15 feet of movement. So 2 squares are free squares. And no reactions triggered. This is mostly useful when you're fighting enemies with attack of opportunity, which are admittedly less common than they are in most other systems, but it's still something to be aware of. Next one, Quick Draw. This is a very generalist feat available to a lot of different martial classes that essentially lets you draw your weapon and attack with one action. This is just an action efficiency thing, fairly simple. Strong Arm. This is basically just a thrown weapon buff. It lets all your thrown weapons gain plus 10 range. For context, thrown weapons use your strength modifier, and as such, I don't really recommend this for a thief because you're most likely using non-thrown weapons so that you can take advantage of certain thief class features. Then there's Unbouncing Blow. This is a thief-specific feat, which essentially gives you a rider effect on your critical hits. So with Unbouncing Blow, whenever you deal a critical hit against an enemy, then that enemy is off guard to you until the end of your next turn. So if you critical with your first action on a turn, you still probably don't want to attack 2 more times that turn and 3 times the next turn, but every attack you do make, presumably after setting up, gives you a higher chance of getting a critical. So technically you can make it so that this just becomes an endless rider effect by just dealing a critical every turn. But to do that, you have to rely on your allies for teamwork. So just be aware that it's not actually a permanent down, unlike similar feats in other systems. The last option is Underhanded Assault. This is a 2-action feat, and there's one part of it that's a little up to interpretation because it describes you sneaking up on a foe. So I assume that means that you get to move up to your movement speed, but that interpretation may vary by GM because the text is a little unclear. But essentially the way it works is you can sneak up to a foe, and even if the foe sees you, you can do this. It just gives a -2 penalty. And if you succeed on the check, then you can make a strike at the end of your sneak. I'm pretty sure this is a movement reference. It's just check with your GM a little bit and check what you actually have with stealth because it is a stealth-dependent feat. That is all for today. This was a fairly quick video. Hopefully this was helpful. You can ask any questions you might have in the comments. And if you're interested in me making a build video like I've done for some of the other classes, you could mention anything that you'd like to see. Thank you for watching.